Hello, everybody. Welcome to Houdini Hangout. We're here on Wednesday, the 27th of September. This will probably, I think this is our last stream of September, or at least Houdini Hangout of September, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, thanks for joining us tonight. Hope everybody's having a great week. It feels weird because I've streamed a bunch recently. It feels like I've streamed every day for like 5 days. Hey, Zach, how's it going, man? Welcome. Feels like every day has been a stream, which is fine. It's just funny. But hey, Gore, welcome to the stream as well. But yeah, so we obviously had our Mops Monday stream and talked about some Vellum there. Had Matt on Sunday morning, nice and early. Here we are doing another stream. And tonight, I'd love to open it up to you guys for a little bit and just kind of answer some questions, talk about, whatever you have on your mind. And because to be honest, I was really struggling with what to even talk about tonight. And a lot of times I like it better when everybody kind of contributes to the chat and, brings up their own, thoughts and questions and things like that. So for me, that is always a much more fun situation to have other people be able to kind of bring their thoughts to this. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We can get to that as, into actual Houdini stuff, or we can talk about theory and ideas and things like that. We can talk about whatever. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have anything like that, happy to hey KG, how's it going? Happy to have you drop those in chat, talk about them, make some quick setups and talk about things. Or, if it's something a little bit more involved, happy to take a look at that as well. So, hey, Paulo, welcome. Really it's up to you as far as what you would like to talk about this evening. I know we did this last month, I think, and it was really like, there was a lot of conversation back and forth, and to me, that was like exactly the whole point of the stream, is to have people chatting and talking and stuff like that. So, always like to see that. I always like to kind of preface these streams too with just saying like, hey, there's no dumb questions. There's nothing too silly or too simple to ask. If it's something that you feel like you're struggling with, or something that you're trying to understand that we're doing, you're always welcome to put those comments in chat. If you're watching this after the fact, you can always drop on the Houdini Hangout Discord and ask a question in there about why or how we were doing something. I'm always happy to be able to kind of shed some light on those situations. So that is kind of where we're at for the evening. And I'll just kind of stall or whatever until until somebody has any questions or thoughts or ideas that they're kind of they're interested in or would like to know more about, or obviously there's not all all sections of Houdini that I know well or have experienced it, but happy to kind of play around with stuff and give you maybe some better ideas on how things work and how you can, better use Houdini. So, obviously we've been doing a ton of, Vellum recently and Mops. And if you have questions on that, happy to kind of talk about those things as well. As far as like, if there's other like more esoteric things like tops or, things like that people maybe don't just jump into all the time, happy to talk about those as well. KG, you're asking something here. For generating fluid meshes, do you have a preference between particle fluid surface or VDB from particles and smooth, etc.? I would personally tend to use the particle fluid surface more often, just because if I'm really trying to do something, fairly quickly with a tight turnaround, that's a pretty good setup already for how to make things work. Let's do this. Let me jump over here and just take a look at that node, because I'm pretty sure that is. I'm just going to drop a geo down here. I'm pretty sure that is actually the nodes that you're mentioning there. You have VDB from particles and smoothing. I'm pretty sure that's inside of that. So let me take a look here. Yeah, particle fluid surface. I have a feeling that if we go inside of here and poke around a little, yeah. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a... Oh, here, I'm just going to right click. Wait a second. Right click here. Allow editing of contents. There we go. That was a nice little trick that Michael Goldfarb showed me, that if you right click up here, you can get your, you can allow the editing of contents from right there. Let's see. So we have particles and volumes coming in here. Particles, and then I'm guessing that down here somewhere we're going to get into a filter. Yeah, I think I'm not seeing it in here. I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling that those nodes are going to be what's going on inside here. And obviously, this is all happening with VDBs and things like that inside of here, where we're, you're remapping and smoothing and doing that kind of stuff in here. So we're doing combines and smooths and a whole bunch of different stuff. So, I mean, yeah, here's the dilate, smooth, erode, final smooth, so that's yeah, imagine to build that from scratch, right? Exactly. That's the amazing, I think that's just the amazing thing of Houdini in general, is like, think about all the time that went into this node right here. And they just give you, Side Effects is just giving you access to that. And that's really amazing, because there's a lot of logic in here that you could take. And if you needed to tweak something, you can go in here and tweak it. That's the really mind-boggling thing when you start to think about it. I mean, the solvers are wild. Like, if you go into the flip solver, that is like insanity in there, right? So that would be something I would yeah, here it is, VDB from particles. So I missed that before. So yeah, so there's your VDB from particles. So really, unless you need something really specific and a lot of really specific control over things, I would say that using this node is going to be better overall, because there's some logic built into it. Obviously, there's cases where you might want to do, here we have a filter or whatever, and we have these, these are our the steps, right? You can see right here the parameters that are exposed here in the filtering, like dilate, smooth, erode, final smooth. Those are all in this filter subnetwork. They're all right here. So if you needed to do it for some reason, like 2 smooths and then an erode and then a final smooth, like if for some reason your logic was something like that, then that would probably warrant doing it on your own in a more customized way. But I think really it's like, it's like 6 of, I think you're basically using the same tools. It just depends on if you need really specific control. Epoxia just said, Mark sometimes fixes little bugs inside of the side effects tools. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you are fixing a bug, please report that to Side Effects. I mean, there's a lot of nodes and HDAs and things like that to keep track of. So if something does have a bug in it, we're always interested to hear that and try to solve that. Gore, you were saying, I am too struggling with fluid meshing. Yeah, I think particle fluid surfacing a flip is always really tricky, because there's a lot of little gotchas with it, and each situation kind of needs its own finesse to it, right? I think one of the things, like one of the hardest things to get rid of is like that flickering and stuff like that, right? Like the little bit of the weird little flickering and jittering that you can get with it. I think a lot of times that comes down to, I found that to be the voxel scale, upping that a little bit sometimes can help. You obviously want to match these things up to your simulations that you're working in, obviously, right? So like particle separation and things like that. But that's one thing that I've noticed. Another thing that can help is actually in your like, if you have really like, I feel like I've run into situations where you have really thin fluids like sheets and things like that, and using the flip solver. Let me just grab that real quick. Where would that be? I'm thinking of the actual one that's inside here, not this one. Okay. I'm thinking of the DOP one, so I'll just make a DOP network. Sorry, this is just me dropping nodes down. Flip solver. This is the one I'm thinking of here. So if you have this volume motion tab and you have, particle. So on the reseeding, sometimes doing like your surface oversampling, like upping that can help a little bit because it gives the surface more particle detail, right? So that can help sometimes as well. It's tricky because there are a lot of factors that kind of change. But I was playing around with some ocean like simulation stuff for a little piece that I did, and a lot of times what I forget personally is that like you look at some of these simulations from feature films, and a lot of the fluid surfacing, other than the actual like wider stuff, like if there's like splashing and mist and stuff like that, that hides a lot of those weird little jittery surface. So sometimes you watch films back and you watch their like fluid surfacing and you're like, that actually doesn't look that great. I don't know how they got away with it, but I think a lot of that gets covered up in the mist and the white water and all that stuff on top of it. So obviously resolution is a big part of that as well. So it's kind of all of these different factors that kind of go into that situation, right, that you're talking about. But so hopefully that gives you some answers to that, or gives you some things to think about there. Obviously it's that's a pretty deep question, but I don't really have like a good thing to point you to. I would probably say if you're looking for good like fluid simulation stuff, then take a look at like the applied Houdini stuff is always really great as far as just like practical like workflow stuff. He does a lot of stuff with fluids as well. So you're asking about somebody just asked if UV mapping works with reseeding. I don't think it really, works with it. Not really. Like you'd have to do like the dual rest type situation, but yeah, UV, like mapping UV attributes to points doesn't really work with reseeding. It could, you'd need some sort of solver to help you fix that as things get reseeded and stuff. So, it's not going to work as well with that. No, for sure. Cool. Well, so Zach asked something where he said he's been struggling with Vellum's soft pin constraints for following animation. Do you have any ideas on best ways to remove a soft pin constraint? Yeah, I think what you would do if you had let me just see here. Let me just do this. I'm just typing words. Let's play with that a little bit because I think that's pretty straightforward. And there's a question from Ruben too about meshing out vellum grains. Copy a sphere to points. Yeah, you could do that. I believe if you're rendering in Karma, it should respect P-scale. It should just see those points as spheres if you're rendering them as a sphere. It really depends on what it is, what the final look is that you're going for. But if you're going for just spheres, you could probably most most render engines have a way to take the p-scale attribute and bring that in. So yeah, I think you would be okay with that. With just, using that in a renderer. So it should see that. I think, in fact, by default in Solaris, you would see particles as spheres. So let's play around with this a little bit. Creating sand. Yeah, if you're doing that, I mean, just instancing, you could instance geometry if you want it to be not a sphere, if you want it to be like sharp little like chunks, if you go back and see how Mark Fancher talked about on our stream, he talked about making little fractured little pieces that he instanced to all of his particles. You could just pack and instance those, and you're going to get pretty good results from that as well. It kind of depends exactly on how close you're getting to it. If you're kind of far away, you're not going to really see those details, but you might get different little hits of like specular and stuff like that and glints. So it kind of depends on how close you are to it. But yeah, I would take a look at that. So you're talking about a soft pin constraint. Let's do a planar patch here, and let's do like a sphere here, and we'll do a cloth, and we'll pin these. Oh yeah, that's right. I want those to be loops. Should just not even be able to do that. Wish there was some logic we could have that did that in here where it's like, no, you can't do that. Okay, vellum cloth, cool. All right, let's do this. And I think what we're doing is doing soft, like so. And that should... Let's see here. Let's make this do something a little more logical. Like so. Let's maybe just give this a little something like that. Just have this pin onto it. Let's do it. Top seam. Okay. Oh, attached to geometry. That's what I want. Doing the wrong thing here. I think this is what you're kind of talking about here, right? You're talking about Zach, I think you were talking about like attaching it to geometry like this. Is this what you're talking about? I think this is what you were referencing. Or are you talking about pinning it to a target, which why is that not pinning? Let's see here. Well, I'm going to keep going with, I think this was what you were kind of saying. I'll just keep setting this up on some level. We can kind of talk about this a little bit more as I get it set up. I'm sure you're typing. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of hanging, doing its thing. Visualize. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So the vellum constraints are, yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're just doing, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got it. I see what you're saying. You've got it pinned to the animation. Got it. This match animation. So what we're doing here is we're going to do like a transform. So I think, yeah, so what's going to happen here is this is going to go like that and that. So that should just stay in place. Yep, perfect. Okay, so what you're talking about is doing something like, let's just translate this into, just do this. We'll just do a wave. And we'll give it a little amplitude adjustment here, maybe. Ha! That's fun. That's simulating in real time. I didn't even think about that would simulate so quick. Okay, so there's that. Let's give that a little longer period so we're not... Yeah, perfect. Cool. All right. So this is what you're talking about here. We've got these, the stiffness for the soft constraint. Maybe it's, I don't know, could be 1,000 maybe. I don't know if that's even too weak. 10, what about 10? I'm just curious here. Yeah, there we go. Got some softness happening now. I was curious as to why that wasn't really looking like it was very soft. Okay, there it is. You just got to go down far enough and you'll get to that nice soft constraint. Cool. Okay, now we've got actual soft constraints here. Cool. All right. So, you're trying to think about how to, to make this, say, break or whatever, controlling the break of it, right? What you can do here is you should be able to, well, first of all, let's give that a group name so that we have that. So we'll call this, we could put these both, I guess, into the same group because we'd want both of these to break. Yeah. So let's call these both, put these both into pin. That should work. They'll both go into the pin constraint group. And these are in stretch and bend. Cool. So if we did that and then brought our, so what that's going to do is obviously make our not collision geometry, but constraint geometry. That's going to make these that are in group pin. So that's going to make all of these down here, right? So what we need to do is find a way to be able to break those, right? So what we should, oh, thanks. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody tuning in to watch. It's great. It's fun to get to chat about Houdini. It's one of my favorite things to do. So let's just look at this here. Let's do vellum constraint properties, right? So if we do this and then wire this in, and I kind of did something sort of like this, I think just on the last stream, but let's grab a group. We'll just do the pin group. And what we'll do is we'll keep this unactivated. We'll do remove at 1. And then when we get to, say, I don't know, frame 48 or something like that, we'll just activate this. Boom. Like that. And then that should remove them, right? So let's see. Let's see if I did this right. Yep, sure did. So so what that's doing is setting that parameter basically to remove based on those, basically just based on a time, just on an activation time. But if you remember what we did before, like for example, using, we can do that, sure. for example, using something like mops, right? So this is a great place where, a mop shape fall off would come in handy, because you could do something like this. You could give it a shape. Let's just give this we'll do a linear fall off. We'll rotate it 90, scale it down a bit, and I can never remember which way's which. That's good. I don't know. So now if we take this shape fall off, and this is going, we could use this to drive our remove, right? Just by using this simple expression here. If you remember, we showed, we kind of talked about this last time, but if we do, yeah, exactly. So Zach, you're asking, like, you just set the pin to target constraints to the same pin group. Yeah. And then set the remove to only be the pin group. Exactly. So in this case here, we'll set the group again. Now you could obviously control this in different ways, right? Like there's other logic you could do to get just those deleted. But in this case, we use this remove, like pseudo parameter type thing, to tell it, like, hey, we want to remove these constraints from our simulation. So now what we could do is just say, let's see, if we do this at 48, we'll translate that and then give it, I don't know, to here, and we'll move it over this side. Boom. Let's just see what this gives us exactly, because I'm just going to turn that off for a second. I just want to see, yep, and I turned my sim off. All right, turn it back on. So I just want to see what this, what the value this gives us. So I'm just going to do mops fall off here, and where are we? Why are we not? Oh, right. Because we're on, so this is another gotcha. Remember, we looked at this last time. Constraints, we want to turn that on. Now we're getting mops fall off. Perfect. Okay, so I did this backwards, as of course I did. So let's just swap this. So this goes over here at first, and then over here at the end. And if we come back to the beginning and turn this back on, there we go. Now we have 0 for mops fall off, and bloop, 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 across. Great. We could do this again just on the pin group, and that'll make sure that we're only setting the fall off on those constraints specifically. So that's cool too. And then we can come down here. We can just say, what's the name of this parameter? Remove. So this parameter is called remove equals, and we can just say f at mops fall off. And that's all we need to do. We're basically just bringing that mops fall off to drive this remove attribute. And I think leaving that at 1 should be fine, but let's see. Yep, perfect. So now we could obviously play around with this and do some funky little things. Like, we don't have to go all the way with it. We could go halfway, right? And so we could do this and let it go, and then have it animate across, and it'll go bloop, 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 and just break some of it, right? So now some of it's broken, some of it isn't. So really that remove attribute is really powerful, especially within the constraint properties. I don't think that gets added here. I don't think there's any remove. No, I'm not seeing any remove. The other one, I feel like there's a broken that shows up somewhere, but it doesn't seem to be the case either. I feel like there's an attribute in there hello. I feel like there's an attribute in there somewhere that drives that. Oh, if anybody's wondering what I'm doing here, this little filtering thing, we can toggle this on and off. And that allows you to kind of switch back and forth. Yeah, no problem, Zach. That's a great question. And it's like slightly different than what we were doing last time. So it's good to think about some of these other situations where you might be breaking and doing some things like that. But yeah, I mean, you could also do that with, you could do that with like a SOP solver if you needed to as well. I mean, that's certainly break threshold. Is that what it is? Yeah. That's interesting. Break threshold. I really thought that there was some other thing here that I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so maybe, yeah, because over on the geometry, there might be a break threshold, but I think you have to have that enabled. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. So if we turn this on, it might actually, like your threshold here, I'm just going to set this up to like 10,000 or something. That actually might initialize some other attributes. Sorry. Let's just see here. Keep clicking on collision geometry. There we go. So break threshold, that is something that needs to be initialized, right? So yeah, you're 100% right that the break threshold, except it's not on points, it's actually on the constraint geometry primitives. So that's where it is. Now I wonder if there's something in here because now it's looking for broken things. Yeah. So that is another possible way. Let's do group pin here. And then let's see if group broken gets set up here. I'm not sure. Nope, it's just getting removed. So the other thing we could do is let's turn this off. Well, we'll just turn that off. Let's do broken here equals mops fall off. Let's just see what that does. I feel like that's going to put them into this group. Let's see. Group broken. I don't know if it'll do the same thing, but Nope. It is doing the same thing. It's interesting. I'm surprised. Yeah, what's the difference between broken and break threshold? Yeah, for sure. So broken is binary, right? So broken is going to be something that that you can't there's no like it's either broken or it's not, it's either wet or it's dry. You know what I mean? It's not, it's kind of a binary situation, right? It's not, you can't have, a threshold, right? With the break threshold, you are able to basically say when it gets to a certain threshold of, force that's being applied to it, then it will break. So that is where, for example, if we had that, let's see here. Where can we visualize that? I'm just trying to think here. So where that could actually happen is, yeah, no problem. The other, like what you could possibly do there is like so there's still those pin constraints there, right? Let's visualize those real quick. Pin to target, there they are. And let's see the, I think the stretch stress is what we'd want to see there. So here they are. They're getting deleted, right? And then kind of just hanging there. Actually, I'm curious how far. Yep. So, oh, interesting. It doesn't. So really what I'd want to do with this is I'd want this to go to like here. Like it looks like it only stopped. It looks like it has to go all the way to 0 for it to actually break those constraints. So bloop, 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 bloop. Yep, there we go. So that's more what I was looking for. So in this case, like if you wanted this one to, like if you wanted there to be a strength at which those, hey Sig, welcome to the stream. If you wanted to have a strength at which those constraints are breaking, that's what the, what that break threshold would be. And if you wanted to animate that throughout the simulation, that's what you would do here, right? You could actually animate this or do something, variable with it throughout your simulation. So that is something possible there. I just saw a question, sorry. Is there a way to group procedural those broken, like procedurally group those and maybe pin them again? Yeah, yeah, there definitely would be. What I would do is probably because what it's actually, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, nothing is going into that broken group. So let's look at the pin group again. And what we're obviously seeing here is that, right, yeah, like some sort of cut and sew animation. Sure, sure. Just going to delete this activation. Don't need that. So what I would do for that personally, if I needed to, would be something like saving an attribute that's telling, saving these attributes probably on, I think what I would want them to be is on their like where the rest position is for them, and then creating them again. That recreating let me see. I don't know. I forget how we could do that in here. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what you could do. I haven't done a lot of like dynamic stuff like that, personally, but I think what you might want to do, that would obviously be another one of these pin to targets here. And I don't know if there's a way to drive that easily. Maybe. Let's try something. I'm just going to give this a shot. I have no idea if this will work. This is a total guess on my part. Go to points. We'll do this. No. It's a great question. No, I love the thought. So like, yeah, what you need to do is rebuild the constraint, right? Because it's getting deleted, right? So that's the unfortunate thing. There's a couple of things I'm thinking there too, is that like maybe if you put them into if instead of just removing the constraints, if you put them into that broken group, I don't know if that will treat them as broken where you can then unbreak them. Not sure. That's a good question. Don't know the answer to that. But let's try this. Let's deactivate this. Let's go to, yeah, that Tom made a great point. Yeah, you could work around it, make the stiffness like insanely low, so it basically is broken. That would certainly be a way to kind of fake it, and be able to let it stretch to like basically infinity and not, have, whatever. But the other thing you could do too, yeah, you could give it a like probably like a 0. You could turn the, you could turn it to basically 0. I don't think that would even be an issue. So it would basically have nothing to add into the stream or into the the strength or whatever. So let me just try this though. I'm kind of curious if this will remake them or not. It's cheating though. Yeah, every movie, every TV show, everything is cheating. I mean, there is no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, we're doing fake stuff here. It's very much this is very much just all fake anyways, right? So let's see if we can do this. So we'll break these here, right? And then I'm just going to deactivate this. Probably there. Deactivate this. And then where was that? Down here, volume constraints. And then at maybe at 120, we'll try to rebuild them. I don't know. I have no idea if this will work or not, but it's worth a shot. All right, so we'll delete those. The cut and sew. Oh, no. Oh, well, we definitely recreated. I definitely recreated some pin constraints. It's just they were pinned back in position. So that's kind of cool. I mean, not that that's what you'd want, but let's see here. Actually, what if I did this instead and I want them to be soft? Okay, let's just try that just as out of curiosity if that'll do it or not. Oh yeah, it did work. Perfect. So that you could certainly do that as well. Now, obviously, we're adding in way too much. We're adding in way too much, force there. Not sure of a way to be able to easily create those each frame. There's not like it's a pretty complex maybe process to do that in here. Okay, so that's one thing. There's the vellum constraint. So recreate. Let me take a look at what this is. Oh, yes, I saw this. Oh my God. Yeah, tell me about it. But he's not re-sewing it back together, does he? I don't think. Oh yeah. Yeah, there is some dark arts at work here. Ay. Look at all that. Yeah. That's cool stuff. I like that though. That is madness though. I agree. So I kind of wonder if we couldn't instead of this. So this is break constraints from fall off. Let's just try something here. Get out of the way. Why are you in my way? Go. All right. So instead of this, let's do a. I'm going to do a geometry wrangle. Sorry, everybody. Primitives. And we want to use constraint geometry. And we're just going to basically do the same thing we were doing before, except we're just going to say let's see, at group pin equals f at mops fall off. I think this will work. Question. I'm gonna say I at group pin. Oh, didn't like that. Oh, yes, it's mad at me. Oh, no, I didn't want it in pin. I wanted it in sorry. Broken. Oh, it's deleting them though. Wait, why is it deleting them still? What am I doing here? Oh. Wait a second. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, so it seems like anything that goes into this broken group, it just immediately gets deleted out of. It gets called out of the whole solve. I guess the other question would be: is there like an active or anything like that? Oh no, you got, well, I don't understand. I literally looked through all of my settings today on Twitch because somebody mentioned that to me before, and I have no idea what is happening with that. Like, I must be too old to know why that's not working, but there was nothing on there that seemed to, so sorry about that. On the replies, he talks about noise and SOP solver inside the solver. Yeah. Okay. So that's definitely what's going on here, where he's, I like how he makes it like that's no big deal. What he would be doing then is a lot of really detailed, probably not really detailed, but he's doing some stuff where he's basically deleting the constraints and then rebuilding them. That's what he'd be doing. And probably what I would do if I wanted to do something that dynamic is I would remember the in this case, what is it? Is there a rest position? Just trying to remember here. Rest length. Just trying to understand how this knows where to be pinned to. Oh, right there. Okay. Sure. So how this is working is it's pinning to these points right here, right? And so if we look at this, I think that's what it seems like to me, at least. Oh, right. These are, so like, for example, 66. If we look at that, that's right there. That's this point. I know that might not be easy to see, but that's point 66 right there. So these are the points that are being stitched, right? So that is how this knows what's happening. So what I would do is, if I wanted to rebuild these constraints, is you basically just set these things back to the way they were, right? Like, you could just reset these constraints and they should be just fine, right? So like in these cases, right, we have a rest length of 0, which fine, that's easy enough. You have some rest vector stuff that might help you. You could put in, if you cut a grid in the middle, you get 2 points. Yes, that's true. However, well, yeah, that's totally right. But yeah, so what you would do is you would have to know where those are going to get stitched back together, right? So you need to know those 2 points, and then remember this is different because this is a pin to animation. So this is a little bit different, but like, yeah, for sure. If you had something that you're stitching between 2 points, what you would do is you would save on the actual geometry, because the geometry is not getting deleted, right? So these points still exist in the geometry. I'm just going to turn these off, right? Or turn that off. So all these points are still there, right? So that's the real difference here. That let me turn this off. Yeah. So like in this case, you would have these points up at the top that are storing that information. But if you wanted to say, have something that stitched those together versus not, you would have to save that on both sides and then reattach them together, basically. And there would be probably, you would use that noise to adjust the rest length of those, like, because once you reattach those constraints together, like I was doing here, it just in a much simpler way, like here with these. So when you cut a geo, yeah, my guess is that's pre-cut. I don't know what exactly he's doing there, but that would be my thought, is that he's pre-cutting that geometry, or that everything is its own little, each polygon could be its own individual piece, right? And he could cut and rebuild them at will. Then you don't need to cut or anything like that. And the thing that you could use as well is if you're using them, oh, what I forget how it works, but if you're doing, I forget exactly the scenario of it, but if you do vellum post process, when you do the apply welds here, I think that will actually fuse your final geometry back together. So I think what you could do is you could make sure that you're doing that kind of in intelligent ways where you're maybe fusing them back together, you know, with a fuse, with a weld attribute. Once they've been restitched back together, you just weld them back together. So they're always welded together. Then you break them, and then you weld them back together at the end, or add a constraint to pull them back together and then weld them. And you can I think you could kind of do that a little bit. I mean, if you've got a SOP solver in there, you kind of have, if you have some sort of custom solver, you have that complete kind of control. I don't know exactly that. I mean, that'd be a really interesting thing to break down, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do that just on the fly right now, without really thinking about it. But, yeah, it is interesting though, for sure. And yeah, if you, what is the node that does that? Is it like edge fracture or something like that? You can get, I think that actually did it for my whole, did that do it for my whole geometry? Hard to tell. But yeah, you can, let me see how this broke this up. Oh, there we go. Yeah. It didn't do it for the whole thing. I was like, that's not doing it for the whole thing. So like in this case here, right, you do have your split edges here and stuff like that. So, oh yeah, right. It's giving us 10 pieces. I should have looked at that and made sense of it, but, there we go. It's brighter on that side because we have our normal thing on, don't we? Yes. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, so like in a case like this, you might have, you would save those attributes probably to either side of this, like what you're breaking apart and stitching back together. So that would be my thought, but. Right. Because what he's doing has so much detail to it. It's almost more like he's using a sheet of particles almost, where there's just a ton of, little tiny pieces of little tiny points and stuff like that. And like, there's got to be a ton of geometry in that, honestly, because there's no other way that you can get that level of detail. Like in these, he's also not really rendering them. These are just in the viewport. So this could be all of his constraints that you're seeing, right? Like this doesn't have to be the final, geometry. He doesn't really get close enough to see all the details of what's going on there or show you what points are what. So my guess would be that there's obviously a ton of geometry in there. You can see all the edges that are being, like in these shots here, you can see all the little edges and stuff that are being deleted. So that would be my thought in that. Like, I don't know for sure, obviously, but, whoa, did my microphone just freak out? Is it freaking out? I'm hearing like clicking in my ears. Hopefully it's not. But anyways, sorry, something weird is going on here. Technology. Oh, it's the Twitter video. Really? Huh. That's weird. Yeah, it must have been. Now it seems fine. Was it like freaking out? Could you hear that? Sorry if it was messing people's ears up or whatever. It just started happening for me, so my bad. I don't know why it would be doing that. Like that should not take up a lot of resources. Anyways, yeah, cool questions. I mean, for sure. It's kind of hard to, maybe dive into some of those more specific details, but I'll leave this here and we'll be able to. Oh, okay, cool. Good. I'm glad. Um, yeah, it was definitely the Twitter video doing something weird on my end. Cool. So that'll be in the file today if you want to take a look at that later. Just a reminder to everybody, I do have the files on the Discord server, so if you want to grab them there, you can go to Houdini Hangout. There's an invite link there, and there's a channel there that you can select to get access to a directory with all of my files in it. So you can take a look at them and see all the mess that I've made, and hopefully maybe learn something from it. Question mark. Let's see. Tom was just saying another option for stitching back the points might be to have another vellum constraint at SOPs level. Call it pins. Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah, you could have. Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, because really all you're doing, you really could almost just. Yeah, that's interesting. It would be, I feel like maybe if you, it would almost be a logic along the lines of like, you would put an ID for all of your, where do you plug the solver? Well, the solver for this one would go over here somewhere, so just remember that this isn't the solve, right? This is just a subnetwork inside of it. So like I've kind of showed this a few different times, but where are we here? This here? Yep. Editing. There we go. So where I actually was inside of this node right here. This is the forces node, subnet. And so where it would actually go, depending on how, so this is your sources out of that. And then here's where it sources new things in. And then this is the, this is your particle forces. So I would probably put it in the post solve. Oh, no, you don't have to use vellum nodes inside. No, really the key when you're working in DOPS with the SOP level, like with a SOP solver, would be that, like say you had a bunch of stitch constraints, right, that you made, and you wanted to source them back inside here. Let me just match the current definition. We'll go back inside. Cool. Go. Get out of here. What I would do is something like a SOP solver and go, just do here, put a couple nulls down to grab. Well, let's just do it for the constraints for right now. I'll just call this constraints, right? Because we need to be able to pull those back in, and it's not super easy to call that. So say you had a SOP solver here, I don't know, wherever. It doesn't really matter too much, but cool. SOP solver. And we're doing this on our constraint geometry, right? Because we need to be able to pull that back in, right? We need to be able to pull your constraints. You need to be modifying that constraint geometry container here, right? Like this data container, not your geometry. You want to be doing constraint geometry. So that's what we're setting there. And then inside of here, you can see now we have our DOP geometry in and out, right? So what you could do is, like, as we play this back, we're going to see this actually change, right? These are just the constraints now that we're looking at. So there they are, falling down. Weirdly, those points aren't deleted. That's really weird. Didn't expect to see that. Let's see here. It's really odd. I don't know. Whoa. Never seen that before. Never looked at that before. Constraint defines. Interesting. I don't know. Confused. I am confused. What number? What are these numbered? What are these being considered? Yeah, see, that's why they have them as this like special type, because they're not. Oh, 155. That's what it is. Oh, okay. That's our pin orientation. Sorry, just trying to figure out what the heck I'm looking at here. Right, that's the pin orientation. Okay. So that doesn't get deleted in this process. Interesting. So then theoretically, you could find if there's you could use this to maybe do some logic and see if there is a, let's see, view. No, that's not what I wanted. Only show selected. Yep. You could probably do that and then see if there is still a pin constraint. So these are just the pin orients and they never go away. So that's theoretically a way to be able to do it if you're using pin constraints. Now, we weren't only talking about that, but fair. Anyways, so when you're in, sorry, I got sidetracked there. That just really surprised me to see those spheres the whole way through. So when you're in here, basically you're just working on your constraint geometry. It's coming from here to here. So if we added a constraint in here at any point, we'd be fine. So like what we could do is, say we had, let's see, you did an enumerate here, right? And let's put in just an index attribute just to make sure we don't mess anything up. But we're going to add an index attribute here, right? At our, on all of our primitives. And I'm only seeing, oh, right, only show selected. So now we have, these are all of our pin constraints, for example, and they have indexes that are set. And all of our constraints will have IDs, right? Or indexes. So we could use that to match up in here and say like, okay, we've got these indexes and they're going to get deleted, right? So as we go through here, we're going to delete some of them. So which ones got deleted? Great. So you could always do some sort of a lookup here where you could then object merge in something, like you could say object merge, constraints. So now we have all of the constraints back in here, right? These are all of those, all of our constraints. That's not just, like we're only seeing the pinned ones here, but these are all of our constraints. And so we could just say, let's only take the pin ones in here, right? So now we're only looking at the pin constraints. And we could compare those against each other and recreate the ones that don't exist anymore. So like if it's finding, if it doesn't find that pin constraint is there, just recreate it, basically just copy it over. So that's something you could certainly do within here. And as long as this output stream here has the pin constraints you want on it, like, so for example, we could do this in here as well, just as a really simple thing. Like we could just do this and at frame, let's say 144, for example, just gonna turn this off. We're just gonna go from here to here. Although I'm going to, right, I need to have all of these on. I don't want to just bring the pins in. We need to have all of our constraints so there's no mismatch. But I'm just going to go from, like, this will basically, this will sort of do what this recreate soft constraints is doing here, except it's from our original constraint setup. So this is just going to switch back to our original setup that's coming in. So it's not going to, nothing will be broken. So if we watch this, it's going to do sort of the same thing. It's going to, oh, wait, sorry. Dynamic simulation is paused. So if we do this and let that play, it's going to fall down. Then it should snap back up like so. So the difference here from what we were doing before is this recreate this. We could just say, let's say, we'll just call this reimport from SOPs. So this here is going to recreate these exact same soft constraints. This is creating new ones that are actually really stiff. So in this case, it's not going to be this like, I'm going to turn that. I don't want to see that anymore. So it's not going to turn these like into their like hard, whatever. That's not going to show their, it's not going to be their original, like that super stiff recreation. It's going to be soft and, kind of bouncing around. Now, the weird thing I think that is happening there is that I'm just re-importing all of the constraints at that point. So it's kind of like sort of freaking out the visualizer there, because it's like, wait a second, I already knew that these were what I was visualizing. So now we've got all new constraint. Like basically I re-imported every constraint right there. However, in this case, it's only, it's resetting it back to its kind of default state and allowing it to simulate back to that. So, you could certainly do something along that lines to be able to tear and blend together, those things. So, yeah, that is, that's kind of a weird little one there, but hopefully that makes some sense. Just kind of spread those out so you can take a look at those. But oh yeah, no problem. Welcome to the stream. Nice to have you. Yeah, no problem. I mean, the frequent streams are, I can't always do that, but for right now it's working. And I'd been meaning to do the mop streams recently. So, yeah, just trying to do stuff as often as I can without burning myself out too much. But yeah, so Ivan, I think this sort of an idea is going to go more into what you're looking for, right? Because so this kind of simulates and it does its thing, it falls down, and then it snaps everything back into position. Now we're not actually seeing, now that's the really interesting thing that's happening here, is that we're actually going just to that SOPs level kind of animation, which remember is different, right? It's not actually going to deform in quite the same way. It's actually just rigid. Now, it doesn't matter so much that we're not seeing that movement, but it does create some weirdness, right? Because we're just pulling that in every frame from SOPs. So it would be better to just add that geometry back into this stream and not touch anything else, because then you'll still have like this movement here. See how this is like all flowing and stuff, and this is rigid. That would be the difference between those two options there, right? So you're not getting that nice visualization of how these constraints work. Although it really doesn't change too much about how the actual cloth is behaving here. It is snapping it back, right? But it's not, you make a mops fall off to make it smooth. You could just reverse that. Yeah, it would be a much more complicated process to have it smoothly come back together, because you would want it to not just instantly recreate that constraint. So yeah, you could use mops fall off. You could use noise or something like that to rebuild that constraint, but with a certain level of stiffness. And as that noise maybe goes down, you would increase the stiffness so it kind of slowly pulls itself back together. That would be something you'd have to kind of play around with, I think. But those are possibilities for sure. I think probably the best way of doing that, if you would be like, the easiest way would be to fake it, right? Yeah, the switch appears all in one frame. Same thing with these vellum constraints, the dynamic ones, those appear all in one frame. So that's a little different, right? But honestly, if you have that many cuts and they're all just stretching out like that and stretching right back together, your best bet might honestly be to just do what I think Tom was mentioning, was like just make the stiffness really, really low and let it just spread out kind of as far as it wants to. And then when the noise goes away, bring it back together, right? So that probably would be your best bet. I feel like you would need so much geometry to do some of these things. So I'm really curious. Like, I'd love to know if that person put out a hip file of that, because I'd love to just look at it and kind of make sense of it. But yeah, so that's my 2 cents from it. So hopefully that all sort of makes some logical sense. I know it's maybe a little convoluted to look at some of these things. And like in this case, the enumerate, you don't even need it, right? Right, Zach. Yeah. So you're saying in that case, the constraints just go super stretchy. Yeah. So as, maybe as a secondary thing, let's do this. Let's make another vellum solver over here. Oh, it's trying to sim up to frame 177. That's why it's not happy with me. Cool. So we'll just do this. We'll say rigid brakes, break and reconnect. Let's do that, because I think we could actually do that pretty easily. So let's do this. So instead of this here, we're not going to do that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay. So we have okay. So instead of this, let's set this back, and we could do stiffness here, right? Actually, what it would probably be best to do is no, the rest length is 0 on those, I think. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here. Let me just look. Because if the rest length is 0, we can't use that. We could use stiffness, but we're going to have to know what the original stiffness is. I don't think there's a stiffness scale here. No, I don't see it. We could just multiply it, but let me just look at this here. Constraint geometry, and we're gonna look at just pin. Yeah, of course, please. Yeah, please send that. Yeah, wherever you might find that helpful, please feel free. Let's see here. Rest length. Yeah, the rest length is 0 on these, so we really can't do anything with rest length scale, but I think stiffness is there. Yep, stiffness is there, so that should be fine actually. So let's just do this. Stiffness is stiffness. And I'm just checking here to see the parameter name. I can't point to it, but the parameter is stiffness, so I know that I can write that. Here, I don't use an at because this is a VEC expression. So what I can do is do that and say, let's do f at stiffness. So this is the actual attribute coming in. So this stiffness is this parameter here, and we'll say stiffness equals stiffness times fall off. So I think that'll work. Let's see. Yes, but it needs to be inverted. Because it should be, the fall off should be inverted. So let's do a remap, and we'll just do it this way. Because we want it to start. Connected? No? Hello? Maybe I'm missing something here. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, in the case of the sudden recreation of the constraints, would it help if you put a pop drag on that group? Yeah, for sure. If you were recreating those points and you knew what points you were recreating, you could certainly put a pop drag on it, and it would help bleed out some of that bleed out some of that force for sure. All right, why is this not working? That is really strange. No, it's working on pin. That's right. Activation is 1. Just make sure I'm not doing anything stupid here. Oh, is this not activated? Delete channel. Keep that activated. Yes, a stiffness of 1 is super stretchy. But I had this pin. This is a pin constraint, and the stiffness is set to 1 here. I'll turn off breaking threshold. Soft match animation 1. Oh, my mop's fall off is still 0. Why is... Oh, because I didn't enable the remap. Dum-dum. There we go. Okay, sorry. Got to enable the remap. There's a little switch there that makes it do what you actually expect. So yeah, the stiffness of 1 is very stretchy, but in this case, because they're pin constraints, I think it makes them fairly, like still just a little springy. Yeah, so this, this will actually kind of work exactly the way you might want it to, right? So let's do this. Let's change the stiffness here to be a little higher, maybe like 1,000. Let's see if that'll work. I think that should work just the same. Yep. Yeah, so this, so we take this, and I'm just going to copy this. Actually, no, I'm just going to shift click that and just grab these. Move them down here. Oh, what? What the what? Just copy and paste them instead. Copy and paste these guys as well. Okay, let's try that. So I'm just moving this this fall off back and forth. Oh, how did I do that constraint visualizer? Sure. It's right here. It's in the visualize node of the Vellum solver. So if you show the guide geometry, you can do that, and you can get pin to target. You can get stitch points, all sorts of different stiff. I don't know what group means. Maybe that's only if you want a certain group. I don't have more to test that with right now, so that's okay. It'll also show you things like thickness and welds and different things like that. All right, so let's take a look at what this is actually doing here. Move that down. So this should do more or less what we're hoping it'll do. Oh, interesting. It didn't. It didn't. What the heck? Oh, I know why. Because we need a way to put it back, because we're changing it. So I know why it's not going back. So the problem here is that I did that kind of stupidly. So I'm using the actual stiffness. So let's just do, just create a rest stiffness here. Is there a way to duplicate an attribute? I actually don't know the answer to that. Wow, I feel really dumb. Is there a way to do that? Just duplicate an attribute and change its name to something else? Is it like composite or something? Huh. Is it attribute rename? Could I do an attribute rename without deleting the old one? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, can you promote? I'm like, why am I? That seems so ridiculous. I mean, I'm just gonna do it with a wrangle, but I mean, a transfer maybe, but that also feel like I have to rename the attribute and then transfer it back. So I guess I'm just gonna do a prim wrangle and just. It seems silly, but yeah, does attribute copy? Yeah, that might do it actually. That's probably the smartest way to do it. So if you did it like this and we copied over, yeah, no problem, Tom. Thanks for joining. Okay, I think this will do it. Let's see here. Yeah. I'm just looking at Wally's thing here. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Wally, that looks nice. Oh, I always forget who everybody's different names and stuff like that. So that's okay. Sorry. I'm terrible with names. All right, so new name. Let's do this. We'll do stiffness. We'll do that. Does that work? Yeah, that works. Cool. Guess that's the way you want to do it. And we'll just set this to primitives, maybe. Cool. Okay. Now we're in business. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do stiffness ridge this way, and that should work. Whoa. That's weird. That's a weird one. Oh, right. Yeah, so the problem there is, yeah, this would actually be a spot where you would want to do it at SOP level, where these, because remember that this simulation, right? Like this is in simulation space, so it's being processed that way. So you'd actually want to do this a little bit different. You'd want to do the fall off based on the actual, like, you'd want to do this based on the actual like rest positions and stuff like that. Like right now we're doing it based on where they're in simulation space. So as they flip, as that curls around and comes into this, like right there, see that this one just jumped back over that line. And so it's like here, it's like, oh yeah, it's soft. And then it jumps over and it's like, whoa, nope, stiff again. Now it's soft, now it's stiff, now it's soft. So that's part of the issue, is that it's happening in this simulation space. So it is doing what we want it to, right? But it's just really causing some super weird behaviors that, don't really make a ton of sense. Now, if we did this with the softer version we did before, like 1, that probably won't run into some of the same issues because it's going to be quite a bit softer, right? So as this flops around, it sort of is going to happen, but not too bad. And then it'll go back, right? So really for this, like as I'm thinking about it more, you would want to do that at, at your actual SOP level here, on your constraints. Use, we'll do a MOPS, shape fall off here just because we have it. But this would basically be the same exact thing, and we would rotate it the same and do all of the same things with it. And then we would... Actually, what I could do is probably just animate this based on this thing here. So let's do this. Cool. I'm just going to turn this off because I don't want that. And what we'll do is we'll do a mops fetch attribute, right? Yep. So instead of the shape fall off, we do a fetch attribute. Just get the mops fall off. We'd get it on the constraints, and it would come from SOP constraints, like so. I'm just going to leave this here because this is our animation. So that should work. Let's see. Question mark? Nope. Right. We have to remap it. We have to invert it. So we'll just do that here. Cool. Hopefully that'll work. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Oh, right. This is... Yeah, this is on the points, right? Yeah, there's our mops fall off. So this is not actually on the right. Yeah. This does not have the same. So we need to promote it. Sorry. Yeah, let's try that. Just wanted to see if he had made one. All right, so let's just do this. Point to primitive. Mops fall off. Does that work? Is that going to come across to all of these? Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Looks like it did. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this should work now, hopefully. Yep, there we go. So if we do this stiffer now, let's do it to like 100 just to not go too crazy. Ooh, interesting. Why did that get so funky there? Let me look at that. Mops fall off, yeah. Weird, it got all like twisted around itself. Huh. Let me just turn this down a little, see if that helps us at all. Could also be my bend stiffness of my cloth, maybe, or of those. No, it's not that. Curious if this would have any effect on it at all. Don't think it would, but I don't think there's any bend happening there. So yeah, so that's kind of conceptually what's happening here. So obviously you'd need a little more tweaking to get it. Oh, it's working. It's working. It's just, making sure that you have the right, what do you call it? The right, settings. There's probably some settings you have to play around with. This is a pretty rigid thing as well. Yeah, I mean, we could match it by index for sure. I mean, you could do this match by index, and that should be fine. I don't think it's going to change anything because it was actually reading the fall off. So there it is. And then when it goes back, yeah, like I said, I don't think it was that at all, except it probably was exactly that. I guess it was just reading them out of order, maybe? That's really weird. I'm surprised it made that difference. It seemed like it was reading it properly, so weird. Because, yeah, I guess it's just reordering the steps of that. So shows how much I know. Let's try this at a real high stiffness. Yep. So just the stiffer that is, and like the shorter your fall off is, right? Obviously. So like having this be at like something more like that, maybe it's just, oops. Something like that. That would hopefully help a little bit too. It might just be transitioning a little bit too quickly. Yeah. So there you go. We're starting to get somewhere with that. That's kind of that release and animate back kind of thing that we're dealing with, right? So, so the whole setup could be done with the weld constraints on fractured geo. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember if weld constraints, let me just see here something. And then if we did a weld, point weld. Nope, that's the wrong node. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, yeah, this has a stiffness and oh no, that's a bend. It's a bend stiffness. Sorry, let me just look here. Yeah, so I think what you would have to be doing would be, let's see here. Does this have a group? Let's just call this weld, so we can actually see what's going on here. I think that's the bend stiffness. Yeah, it's bend. Trying to remember how the weld is controlled here. Sorry. Like what defines that it's a welded point? Yeah, that's what it is. So the weld points. Yeah, so you could do something similar here, right? Where, yeah, exactly. They'd need to be broken. So you could do something similar here, right? Where you had your weld original, right? You could do something like that. And it would then, you could then weld it and unweld it, I guess. The only question there is if it snaps back, I guess. Yeah, so what you'd probably want to have is some sort of a probably like a, I was thinking maybe a glue, like some sort of glue or some sort of something to go across it. Can you do a, that's weld points. I'm just trying to think. Maybe it could be a stitch points. What is that? What does that give us? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think stitch is probably what you would want, but you would need to have, yeah, I think what you would do is do this on points like that. I know it's a little hard to see, but those are all the newly stitched points. Let me just see what this, yeah, let me see what this does actually. Let me do a vellum solver here as well. I'm going to put this in a new node. So we'll just say vellum, what's the word? So yeah, there's that. And let's place that in here. Just want to see if this is going to sort of do what I would expect it to. So let's pin those top points, planar patch top. And that should just hang, hopefully. I don't think we're going to have, oh yeah, they're breaking apart. That's cool. Now, why are they breaking apart? I said stitch, and they don't want to stitch? Hello? All right, let's visualize what the heck's going on here. Oh, right, they don't have a target. Thank you, sir. Did that do it, I think? Nope. Is it new points? So we just want to do it to itself. That's sort of working. What am I missing here? I'm missing something really dumb. What am I doing? Help, chat. I'm off the rails. Would the rest length work instead of stiffness? Possibly, but I think because the rest length is usually 0 with these, you can't really define that in a different, like you can't really do anything with that. Like it might be weird. I feel like they don't have a target mass. Yeah, maybe it's the mass. I don't know. I don't understand. What are these groups? What the heck are those? Never seen those before. Huh. So oh, this is not looking good. Let me put the darker background on here because I think this is getting hard to see. Yeah, I can try that. Let's give it a shot. I mean, like, it definitely is better with it as... No, it's not any better. I'm just dreaming. Like, what is this being constrained to? I don't even understand. Like, it wants to... wants to do something, but it... Oh! There's the answer. Don't use the closest location on primitive. Just constrain to closest point. Yeah, so I think this is part of the issue, though, is that you get these weird like gaps and stuff like that. It's like working, but we have like, you're seeing a little gap there. Yeah, I don't think we need either of these. I don't think. It's going to be about the same. But, so let me see here. Vellum post-process. Yeah, so I think that's the difference here, is that with these stitch constraints, yeah, you could certainly turn the stiffness down, right? And just, well, that's probably easier to do like this. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I know what you're saying. If it's creating it to crack, I don't think so. Because if it was causing it to do that, like if we did this and view thickness, yeah, you can see right there that the thickness actually gets turned off, right? No thickness. What it might be, honestly, is that we just don't have enough substeps to make it really nice in this case. Yeah. Just one substep is not enough to solve that. So that's part of our issue here, is that is causing our problem. Now, in this case, let's see, we have all of these. Let's see here. Yeah, see, this isn't causing those to weld. I wonder if we change this to a weld points. Yeah, see, that's this would be the difference here. So those, if we simulate those here, these have multiple points in each of these spots. So we have 342 or 272 points. We go down here, we have 192, and it welds them back together, one big piece. So if you had them like breaking and reconnecting, and you were turning on and off that weld constraint, that would tell it to like re-weld it, basically, like stitch it back together and turn it into one piece again, and get rid of all those multiple points, so that could help with normals and things like that. With the stitch points, don't believe we're going to get that same result. We have 272 there. 272 there, just making sure that that isn't doing something weird. We could probably turn this down a little. So yeah, this is not welding it back together at the end though. So that's kind of the difference between a weld and a stitch, is that it doesn't have the ability to do that at the end. And it's also probably, it's enabling it to be able to stretch apart a little bit as well. So if we did something like this, yep, we're going to get those. And if we go even a little bit further, we're going to get stretchier pieces. So the stitch constraints would work with the concept of changing the stiffness that we were just talking about there. So that would be a possibility. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, what is this? No, that one doesn't have anything in it. So yeah, you could sort of do that same setup that we had where it was breaking apart and pulling back together if these are stitch constraints. So that's possible. Let's just, if I change this to pin, just to keep the name similar, let me grab these up here. Try this out. Give it a shot. It's the worst that happens. I totally screw it all up. Okay, there's what we had from before. We'll only have that work across the pin constraint. Cool, cool, cool. And then we'll copy over that new thing here. Or this setup here. Wait, what did I just do? Jumped in and out of the same network. No, just the bottom one. All right, let's try it. Okay, let's give it a shot. I'm not sure what this will do. Just fall to pieces, apparently. What did I do? The fall off is animated. No, it is not, because it's trying to do a relative reference. Thank you. So that's part of the issue. It should be over there. Let's try that. I don't know if that'll work or not, but we'll give it a shot. Let's maybe not let it go all the way down. We'll do it like, just do something low so it has a little bit of stiffness. This doesn't completely break apart. Nope, that's not working. Let's see here. Constraint geometry. What are we getting? This is not looking at the right spot. That's why. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Okay, too stiff. Let's try that again. Oh, it doesn't like that. It's mad. It's angry. Angry cloth. Hey, hey. So I think, let's see what's happening here. Hello. That is some angry cloth. We are close. We're so close. Yeah, it's really unhappy about something we're doing here. I'm not sure what it is. I think it maybe is this point right here. This looks really unhappy. Oh. You know what? I think this might be where our thickness is coming into play. Let's see. Yes, definitely is. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's happening here. Is the thickness is coming into play. So what you'd need to do this with is with you couldn't use these stitch points and stretch them out and bring them back together, because what they're going to do is once they've gone outside of each other, they should be okay, right? Like they're gonna be in a kind of in a funky weird state here, and then as they stretch out, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm good, my collisions are good. And then when it tries to pull itself back together, not happy at all. So that's the issue, is when they're when they're overlapping each other, they're fine. They pull apart and then they try to come back together, and they're not going to ever come back together. So that's the issue there. Yeah. So I think what you would need to do is use a little bit of combined logic, where you would be, either welding and unwelding the points, right? And then that way you're able to get them close together without the issues. And then you could probably use like glue across those seams or whatever to make that work as well. Yeah, there's kind of a lot to this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to solve this tonight, as it's getting later and later. And, I think this might be where I have to tap out on this one, but, it certainly looks like we're getting somewhere sort of close, but, there's definitely a few different things happening here that, are tricky, because you want to not have those collisions. Oh, sorry. I'm like bouncing my monitor. You don't want to have those collisions where they're, coming back together and then then they're stopping each other from getting super close. So it might be, there's so many different levels there where you could, just scale it down maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts I have there, but I think, this is I think we're sort of on the right track here. We're, I think we're sort of kind of noodling around the answer, but I think it's an interesting question there, but certainly worth. Hopefully this will start you in the right path and be able to maybe find something from there. But these files, like I said, you'll be able to kind of grab them and pick them apart. There's not that much crazy stuff going on in here, but you can at least look along with it if you want to, and jump in there and see what's up. But I guess before we wrap up, does anybody else have any other questions that are even on this, or maybe a little bit, even something that might not be directly applicable to this. I know we've kind of spent most of the time on this, which is fine, no problem. I'm just want to make sure that if anybody else had a question that they wanted to get in there and ask, we could at least address some other questions or whatever. But yeah, figure I'd just throw that out there to see what else people are curious about. Oh, you got questions about Kinefx, huh? What kind of questions about Kinefx? How deep are we talking here? Did you put the request in for the, let's see, there was one. No, that was a different person, I think, talking about mechanical rigging. I think that was someone different. Superficial for sure. Oh, okay, sure. What do you got about Kindefx? What kind of questions? See if I can answer them. Oh, on a totally while you're typing, on an unrelated side note, I just thought of the idea recently of having some like background music for the streams, so it's not just dead silence when I stop talking. Does that annoy people? Is that cool? Like, I saw somebody else do that recently for one of their tutorials. I think Moeen Saeed does that for his tutorials, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, I could do some like little background music or something. That's kind of cool. Great. Okay. It's a great question. How could I deform and animate a tree? This is really simple stuff, right? So the simplest way. Yeah. Totally get it. First of all, let me see if I can find some good. Let me just do a quick look on our site here. See if I can't find. Actually, let me just pull it up over here first. Trying to remember here. Community. No, tutorials. I don't remember. Okay, so here's something I would definitely point to first. Oh, background music could be nice if it's chill and low. Without copy. I don't know what copy means. Oh, without like people singing like words? Yeah. Not people with words. Okay, so obviously this. Yeah, that is a good one. 2 times speed can make the music seem kind of frantic. Interesting. Huh. There's one that Michael did recently. We both worked on this one. So I think some of these might be really helpful. Like this here would be so. Okay, sorry. Where I am is I'm on copyright. I see copyright. Yeah. I have copyright free. That's what all my music is, copyright free, or royalty free or whatever it is. So this is on. If you go to learning paths, there's character rigging here. Now this is granted going to be about character rigging, right? But something like this biharmonic capture might be all you really need to get started. I mean, Michael does. This looks like this is like a 5-minute video, maybe. Not 100% sure how long this is. Yeah, but this is going to be the basics of just rigging something like super simple. Honestly, I would just take a look at this and see kind of what he talks about here. This is going to be like as simple as it gets. Peter sings hits of the 80s. Yeah, I actually have a whole CD that I put out about where I sing the hits of the 80s. Funny enough, I actually used to be in a band, and there is stuff out there of me singing as a a youth. So I'm not going to plug it or tell you where to find it, but it is out there. So yeah, it's out there. Anyways. This would be a great one for biharmonic. This would be like the most simple understanding of like setting up some simple capture and like, with a skeleton and stuff like that. So this would probably be a really good, you can hear it. You can find it. You can hear it. It's out there. So yeah, this is like the most simple thing to like understand. And this will probably get you put in a better position than like what, I could do in, the next 20 minutes or whatever. But, yeah, this is going to be really good. And then you can get into other stuff too here and play around with some, simpler, beginner rigging stuff right here. And like, so this is foundations as well. So like this would be, a way to kind of understand rigging, right? So that's a little bit maybe more, but this certainly is, if you want to get into more Kinefx stuff, you can go this direction as well. But just as like a quick thing, like to make a skeleton, this is going to be so boring and nothing, but in Kinefx, it's possible to create things like in Cinema. Yeah, well, so just the thing that's really interesting about Kinefx, right, is like, here, I'll show you how to rig. I'll show you, maybe I can do this quick. So we'll do a tube. I'll show you real quick. We'll do this. Match size. I'm just going to put this on the ground. Minimum. Let's do a height of 5, something like that. And we'll give this end caps. Cool. So what I'm going to do is make a line as well. I'm going to copy this parameter over to here, to the length, paste the relative references. So now we have a line that's going to go around our tube, right? And so let's give this a few more points. Let's just turn this on so we can maybe see our points here. I'm just going to change the visualizer. Just double the size of those just so we can see them just in case. So, okay, so we've got points on a line here and we've got this geometry, right? So we've got these points on a line. Let's do a few more. Let's do like, I don't know, we'll do 8. Let's do I think if we do a skeleton node, this will do it. Yep, there you go. Now you got a Kinefx rig, right? So these are now Kinefx joints. So these are, these are points with names and local transforms and transforms. And that is what you need to make a Kinefx rig, right? And so now if we do a capture, biharmonic, which you want to do a joint capture biharmonic, not a bone capture joint. So if you see, you want to have these with the 3 inputs and outputs. That's right. So our rest geometry is this. Our capture pose is this. And we don't have an animated pose. So now we just captured our geometry here, right? So I'll just put both of these in like that. We don't have an animated pose, but that's fine. We'll just put them both in. So now we've captured this geometry, right? With that joint in those joints in the middle. And then if we do a rig pose and a joint deform, basically the word joint is what you always want to look for, right? I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere about drugs, but so what we want to do now is we got our joint deform and our rig pose here. And if we take this and go like that, now we're deforming. And that is how simple it is to make a rig in KineFX. And this is all FK, right? This is all forward kinematics. So it's not anything crazy going on here. But if you were to do something like I guess all I'm trying to say is that this is still just points, right? This is just still points and lines, right? That's all this is. There's nothing fancy going on here, right? Like we have not created data that is unique here, right? We have points, transforms, all that stuff, right? So this has some captured data on it for the geometry, and that's telling it how to operate here. But if we put a null down, that's it. That's what we got going on here. So nothing crazy. And if we look here, this is our rest pose, right? This is our capture pose as they call it in KineFX. And so this has, this has a little less data than this does, but that basically is just telling it what the deformation is between these two, is like helping it calculate the deformation. So that's setting up a rig in KineFX, right? It's really super simple. You can also, instead of using skeleton, you could do rig doctor as well, I think here. He says unsure. Let's do this. Let's do a switch. I think this should be the same, but let's see. All right, so this is the skeleton version. Nope, rig doctor, it's angry. It's so angry. Why is it so angry? Initialize transforms. That's probably what it was mad about. Yep. So you just need to initialize the transforms on it, and that'll make sure. Yeah, I'm going to be banned if I send a link. Yeah, so with Mops Plus, there is a rig spring modifier, maybe? So I think if we do this rig noise, and we do a mops noise fall off. Yeah, this is going to do something. I'm not sure what, but it's going to do something. Oh, now that's just plain fun. That's just fun. What about this? What's this going to do in here? Anything? Anything at all? Hello. Guess it would have to be a different kind of animation, right? For it to actually be springy. Let's see here. What if I do... Let's see here. What if I do this? If I just go like... do something quick. Like a quick animation here. It's gotta be in the view state. All right, so let's do this. 24, grab this. We'll just do this. How quick is that? That's probably quick enough. I'll make it a little quicker. Boing. There you go. That's how you would do some weird stuff. Go grab Mops Plus. I mean, you can certainly do this otherwise, right? This is not like unique to what to to only being able to be done with mops. You could certainly do this with other tools as well. So like you do that, and then you could do, like, let's take this guy, and what is that? Which one? Sorry. That one. Yeah, there you go. Some fun stuff. So that is one of the nice selling points of Mops. Oh, geez. Hello. I still selected. So yeah, you can do wacky stuff like that with KineFX, which is tricky to do normally, but that's a nice little feature. So there you go. We ended up having a Mops Wednesday, kind of, in a way. Apparently I should just do Mop streams all the time. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, so you've got this. If I wanted to save a starter node tree like this one, I have to recreate it every time. Is it better to use HDAs or the tool palette? I personally think I like, well, it depends on what you're doing, right? Like if you need to go in and tweak things, then probably having a, having some sort of a shelf tool or something like that would be better, right? But if you are, in order to put the nodes down that you want, that would probably make more sense. If you wanted to do something that you weren't going inside and tweaking things as much, but you had, attributes that you wanted to promote up, then certainly an HDA would be a better solution for you. So yeah, that would be my thought. I'm actually, what I'm going to do? I'm going to make these, let's see, there's a rig. Rig noise, right? I don't think can I just do it like this? Let's see here. Yeah, so this is the really interesting thing about banned again. Always banned. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that certainly would be so yeah, so what you can do is you can actually you can bring you could bring in these, maybe that's something we'll take a look at one of these times. But you could take a rig in like this, and since it's just a line, you could do a hair simulation on it, right? And shoot, I'm too interested now. You got me interested. Oh, guys, you're just messing with me. Okay, so switch. I'm just gonna change this here so we can look at the differences. So this is the one with the weird bounciness, and then here's our random wiggly thing. Weirdness. Cool. All right, so what if we wanted to bring this in through... Oh, I can imagine. All right, so if we did a vellum configure hair on this, and then I'm just going to pin one of these points here. Then we'll do a vellum solver. And we'll do some wind. Actually, you know what? Let's do a pop wind in here. We'll do it 5. I don't know. I'm literally just guessing right now. No idea what's going to be the best or make any sense for this. Let's do maybe a little less, 1.5, 2.5, something like that. And we'll change the air resistance a little bit so it's not so strong. So I think this might not work right off the bat. Let me just check. Give it a shot. Yeah, so there's some weirdness happening here. So this would be where I think where you'd want the rig doctor to just. Oh wait. Oh, I was doing this the other day. I'm trying to remember what I did. Yeah. Orient joints. That's what it is. So we're going to orient our joints based on the reference skeleton, I think. Here. Think that's right. Sorry, this is becoming messy. Let's try that. That's maybe going to make a little more sense visually. Okay, orient joints. Yep. There you go. So something like that. I mean, I'm just doing wind on that, but you can imagine that if you wanted to have something simulate like that, this watch thing. Sorry, I didn't even bring that up onto the thing, but like, you know, if you wanted to simulate like the cloth, like simulate those as like hairs or cloth or something like that, and then animate them back. You could totally do that. There's a lot of stuff you could do here, but these are just wires, right? So this is all that's kind of controlling that, right? So you could have this thing just kind of blowing around like this from that, and then you're good, right? That's your your rig or whatever. So points and lines as rigs, kin effects. It's really nice. And I'll leave this in here and you can kind of play around with this. And I might have missed obviously missed something in there somewhere, but yeah, a lot of what you see people do with rigging now in Houdini is like, so they'll do like say you had like a backpack or something like that. You could super simply like rig and you wanted it to be like rigged or connected to a character or something like that. You could have the straps just be lines. And you could obviously have the backpack be connected to those lines, but that could be maybe a soft body. And then, there's a lot of different stuff that you could do with this. Obviously you can kind of mix and match, but in the end, like everything we're doing here is just points and lines. So it's, really pretty straightforward, right? So if we just, those are the different things that we're doing. Oh, you know what? That's another thing you want to do probably is get some of these other extra attributes off of this, like air resistance and all these things, like delete those out of there. You don't need all of those. Like, wait, why are there so many attributes? Because of Vellum. So yeah, the other, so these are the important things here, though, is the local transforms, names, all those things, right? So anyways, I think that will do it then for the evening. Hopefully that's kind of an interesting little thing to take a look at. That's the cloth. I'm like, what am I looking at there? This skeleton is just huge. Wacky waving inflatable arm tube man. So I think if it actually we could. Oh, weird. Oh, that's so funny. It's doing right because it's taking this rig pose that I made and adding the noise to it. So I could just do this for the other one and then it'll just be random. Yeah, probably better. Anyways, all right, everybody. I think that is where we will sign off for the evening. There is a request for some hard joint can affect stuff. So that certainly could be something interesting to take a look at in the future. And yeah, that's I'm always kind of keeping an eye on the suggestions and things like that. This week I just did not have enough time to actually go in and check everything out. Well, not check everything out, but process things and actually come up with a good plan for something to do. So I was kind of like, I don't know, forget it. We'll just do Q&A tonight. So, but cool. Yeah. Thank you guys all for joining, and yeah, glad to hopefully give some little pieces of knowledge out in these. It's always fun. So, yeah, thank you all for joining. Have a great, rest of your evening or day or whatever time it is for you. And we'll see y'all next week, and we'll be doing another Ops Monday next week. So see y'all then. Bye, everybody.